Before I share these strategies, a quick reality check. If you're here for a basic optimize your meta tags advice, this is not going to be that video. Instead, I'm going to share with you why most traffic advice is backwards and reveal the strategies that are actually working right now, including 3 that for some reason almost nobody's talking about. Look, staring at your website's analytics can be soul crushing. 0 traffic spikes, no organic growth, just a flat line that makes you question if anyone even knows about your website. But trust me when I say that we've all been there, that frustrating place where you're creating content, sharing it on social media, and still the only thing you hear are crickets. But here's what's interesting. The difference between a website that gets consistent quality traffic and one that doesn't isn't about spending more money. It's about knowing which strategies actually work and how to implement them correctly. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you 5 proven ways to increase website traffic, and they're all things you can start doing today without spending a single dime. These are not going to be theoretical concepts. These are going to be practical methods we've seen work time and time again with our Thrive Teams community and even in our own business. And the best part, again, is that you can start implementing these today regardless of what your budget looks like. All right, let's dive in. All right, let's kick things off with what I like calling the dead content revival system. Look, you've been consistently creating content, but feel like it's falling flat or simply disappearing into the digital void. I understand that it's easy to get discouraged when you've spent hours crafting blog posts, videos, guides, only to watch them get buried into the depths of your website without any real engagement or traffic. But here's the thing, that content that is just lying there on your website with no traffic and no metrics, it's actually not dead. It's just being overlooked. And so instead of letting your past work gather some more digital dust, we're going to give it a second life. How? Well, step 1 is to actually identify those content pieces that have potential of being revived. And a good start is to find existing content that has already performed, somewhat decently in the past, or content that at least you think has potential to perform better. Look for blog posts, videos, or even landing pages that have some level of traffic or that have had some level of traffic in the past and that have simply plateaued. And to help you with this, I would probably use Google Analytics to spot content that got initial traction but didn't maintain its momentum. Once you've identified your content gems, it's time to update them, and here's how. First, you want to look for opportunities to add new information. Just analyze whether the content is a little bit outdated or if it's missing recent trends or data, and just give it an update. Add fresh statistics, insert new examples, or even bring a new perspective on the topic. And what's almost always true, though, is that for content pieces that have plateaued and that you're trying to revive, there's almost always room for you to work on the headline. And look, sometimes all a post needs is a more compelling headline, so just try testing different variations that are more intriguing or SEO friendly. And speaking of SEO, let's talk SEO. Now, this is not about trying to game the system, okay? It really is about understanding what your audience is actually searching for. Start with keyword research using tools like Lowfruits to find those specific phrases your potential visitors are typing into Google. And I'm specifically mentioning Lowfruits because it does most of the things you'd expect from a keyword research tool without actually needing to take out a mortgage to pay for it. Plus, it even tells you which sites are ranking for the keywords that you're targeting, but aren't doing a really good job of doing so, which really personally motivates me to get the work done and try to take their spot. But of course, that's just one small thing that I really like about it. Now, remember that you want to be looking for keywords that have decent search volume, but low competition. These are really your opportunities. And then you want to optimize your content around these keywords in a natural way. Like, have your titles, descriptions, and headers speak to what people are actually searching for. And remember, you're first writing for humans and then the algorithms and the search engines. If people are not reading and they're not engaging with your content, Google is going to be able to tell because people are just going to land on your post. They're going to see that it feels like your article was written by ChatGPT, and they're going to leave within 2 seconds. You can't trick Google. Now let's talk about a strategy that's not as commonly discussed but can give you an edge, the platform arbitrage method. And what this essentially consists of is of identifying underpriced attention on emerging platforms and, just trying to leverage that before those platforms become oversaturated. And this sounds a little bit like rocket science, but I promise you it's as easy as figuring out how to make popcorn in the microwave. So what do I mean with this concept of underpriced attention? Look, it's when a new platform or a new format is just starting to gain traction, but hasn't yet been flooded with content creators. And so the attention here is obviously going to be less competitive, and because of that, it's going to be easier for you to get noticed. It really is like, for the sake of coming up with an analogy, it's like getting into like an exclusive club before it becomes, the hottest place in town. And I can actually speak from experience here. Over the past 2.5 months, I've crossed over 2 million views across 5 different social media platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. How did I do this? Well, for one, by leveraging all of these different platforms whose algorithms behave differently. But even more importantly, by filling content gaps that weren't saturated on some of these platforms for my niche. On TikTok, for example, every time I've done a street interview with strangers, I've gotten at least 50,000 views and hundreds or even thousands of comments. Now, street interviews are, they're sort of really popular. I'm sure you've seen a lot of them on social media. But the question here is, are they popular? Like, is it a popular format in your niche? Because if they're not, that is a content gap waiting to be filled. So go ahead and fill it. I'm doing so in my niche, and I'm capturing all the attention for myself. Now, a big takeaway from the platform arbitrage method is that not all algorithms are created equal. I've had videos on TikTok that have gotten me 200,000 views, and that same video has barely gotten 500 views on Instagram. Or, vice versa. I've had videos on Threads go viral and pick up very little traction on TikTok. Like, it really is important to try to leverage all platforms if you can, because you never really know where or when the algorithm is going to fill a gap with your content. Now, of course, this video is about getting traction to your site, which is what really matters. And the platform arbitrage method is really helpful in growing your social media following. But you have to make sure that you're making an effort and taking people, outside of social into your ecosystem, which is your website and your email list. And here are some tips for doing this. Something that I noticed that works for me is I use lower third call to actions in all of my videos, or I even display banners throughout the entire video, prompting people to take action and visit my website. I guess it really depends on the format of your videos and how you're doing your videos, but you really want to try and figure out when throughout your videos does it make sense for you to subtly introduce a lower third call to action, prompting people to visit your website. Most people on YouTube, and in a way rightfully so because it really doesn't hurt doing this, would probably encourage you to put your your website URL in your TikTok and Instagram and Twitter bio. And like I said, go ahead and do this. It doesn't hurt. But the truth is that most people that come across your content are, they're not going to bother clicking through and checking out your profile. And so I really do think it's better to have that call to action on your video, because if it blows up and it starts picking up traction and you start getting thousands of views and people start sharing your videos, which again, I've had this happen to me many times over these past couple of months, at least most of the people are going to be able to see the address of your site, and you're going to have much higher chances of having people check you out, and you're not forcing people to watch your video and click through your profile. Like, it's all happening right within the video. Okay, I want to talk about email marketing now. It might seem old school, but it works. And to be honest, it works better than ever. And the secret, even though let's face it, it's not really a secret anymore at this point, to building up an email list is creating lead magnets that people actually want. Not just another generic PDF, but tools and resources that solve real problems. A really good example of a lead magnet that I'm seeing more and more people use, and I think it's genius because it doesn't take a whole lot of time or effort on your behalf to get it up and running, and it's really easy to maintain as well, is a resource center. What the heck is a resource center? Well, a resource center can be a spreadsheet, it could be a Notion document, it could be, just about anywhere where you list all of the videos, all of the useful tutorials, information about your tools, about the tools that you're using, and so on to run your business. For example, if you run a WordPress related marketing agency, you may include in your spreadsheet in your resource center the list of all of the plugins that you almost always use on all of your website. Of course, you're going to have ThriveSuite in there, but you may also have all-in-one SEO as your favorite SEO plugin of choice. You may have Affiliate WP to set up all of your affiliate programs on all of your websites. You may also have a section that quickly takes your customers or potential customers to important how-to tutorials that you've recorded, or maybe a tutorial that someone else has recorded and you simply found it really useful and you want to share it with your potential clients. These resource centers can be really valuable and they're super easy to maintain because you may want to check in on them every week, and if you found a new video that you want to share with your potential clients, you can just stick it into a new row inside your spreadsheet and you're good to go. Like, it's going to take you a little bit of time to get it up and running because you got to curate all of the information about, okay, which plugins am I using, or which videos do I like, which podcasts do I listen to, which books do I want to recommend. But once you have that resource center up and running, you're good to go. Now, again, this is all about bringing people into our website, and a good lead magnet alone should already help you bring traffic to your site. But don't forget that once you've captured people's email addresses, you want to put them into an email sequence that provides real value. And you want to provide value first and sell second. Yes, you want to eventually market to your list. I understand that. I want to do that as well. But remember, value comes first, selling comes second. Okay, let's now talk about micro community infiltrations. Think about it. Why would you struggle alone when you can partner or even have other people bring traffic to your site? And to do this, something that I've been personally paying a close attention to are forums, places like Reddit, Discord channels, Slack channels, Quora pages where people come in and ask questions. These are awesome places for you to just come in, take a look at what questions people are asking, go back to your site, write up a blog post or an article, maybe even a video answering that person's question, and boom, shoot it back into Reddit. And you won't believe the amount of people that are going to be coming to your site to check you out because you've gone the extra mile of actually helping someone out. And this is especially powerful if you can get people to upvote you and give your answer credit on places like Reddit or Quora. It's like a free ongoing source of never-ending traffic to your site. And this is especially true now that Google seems to be heavily indexing Reddit posts on Google. Anyways, hopefully you found these 5 strategies helpful. These are things that, again, you can start doing today without spending a single dime, and I assure you that they're going to help you increase traffic. It may take, a little bit of time here and there and some effort, but they're 100% effective. And remember that every successful website started exactly where you are right now. The only difference between them and you is that they took action, and it's now your turn.